Hello, everyone. Welcome to this new Asterisk webinar. Like you probably know if you're here, Asterisk is a project co-founded by the European Union and the Clean Hydrogen Partnership, looking to develop new solutions to make clean hydrogen from seawater directly. And as it happens, Asterisk luckily is not alone in this tremendous challenge. There's three other projects funded through the same call with the same pot of money from the Clean Hydrogen Partnership and the European Union. And we are all clustered and working together to try and find solutions to this problem of seawater electrolysis. So in the next few webinars, we're going to talk with each of these projects to discuss how each of them are doing different ideas, different solutions to try and find a way to split water into hydrogen and oxygen directly from seawater, and ideally using less pollutants and less chemicals than we're using right now. So now today we've got project Sea4Volt, which is very similar to Asterisk. Actually, we're sort of competing in the same arena, but we like to see it more as a collaboration. And they've got a very similar approach. They use the same type of electrolyzers, which is anion exchange membranes. And they're also looking to make these electrolyzers without CRMs, that's scarce materials, and without PFAS, the famous fluorinated chemicals or forever chemicals that sort of pollute everything, and they're found everywhere. So we're trying to remove them from the electrolyzers altogether. Like Asterisk, they're also using water they can find in the sea near the European Union. So they work with water from the Atlantic Ocean, the Mediterranean Sea, the Baltic Sea, and they're looking into brine valorization like Asterisk, turning byproducts into resources and trying to find the cations and the ions that we find in water a second use, besides just getting the hydrogen out of the water. We're trying to valorize and make the process as circular as possible. So from Sea4Volt, today we've got Farhan Ali, who is working as a research assistant in VTT, which is probably the most prestigious research center in Finland. He's got a background in chemical and energy engineering at KTH in Sweden and at the university in Finland. And he's an expert in both PEM and AEM electrolysis. So today he's here to present the project, let us know how they're working towards the solution of direct seawater electrolysis. And hopefully at the end, we'll have some time for questions and answers. If you've got any questions, please feel free to drop them in the YouTube chat. We've got people monitoring, and then they'll pass them on to me at the end. We'll have a quick chat with Farhan about the challenges of seawater electrolysis. Again, Asterisk and Sea4Volt are funded by the Clean Hydrogen Partnership and the European Union. It's great to be able to collaborate with other projects. Like I said, it's more of a cooperation than a competition. Hopefully together we'll find a very cool solution that we can take to market. And without further ado, Farhan, the floor is yours. We're really looking forward to your presentation.
Thank you so much, Far. So very kind of you, and for the introduction, and then also for a brief about the Sea4Volt. So without any ado to introduce further about Sea4Volt, I think we can go directly to the presentation. And I know that probably most of you heard of VTT, but I would like to take this opportunity to uh, give a bit more detail about VTT, that what we do in generally. So for people who would like to know more about VTT as well. So from the content point of view, then I will discuss about some facts about VTT, and then how Sea4Volt project overview, and then what do we do in Sea4Volt, how is our approach, and then the important part is the impact, that how it's going to create the impact during the continuation of the project and the coming years, at least 10 to 15 years later on. So when it comes to VTT, so I'm adding some examples here about VTT and Finland in generally, so which means that these are the examples of the innovations that are developed by us. Some of them has already led to startups and then commercialization as innovations. For example, One Go Bio, which produces egg whites without from the animals. And then we have steady energy that is developing small reactor to utilize in the district heating. So, and then I think many of you already know VTT about the quantum computing, which means that VTT has built the Europe's first 50 qubit quantum computer to multiply the computing power. And based on those all practical examples, VTT is committed to finding solutions for global challenges and then developing winning solutions for our customers. So both goes hand in hand in that sense. Uh, then about VTT, so at its research and development, that's one aspect, and then the other aspect is that it's the government-owned majority of it, and then another one is that VTT is a non-profit organization. So most valuable assets for VTT is the IPs, or then turning solution into startups and then developing the technologies. Uh, so doing that, it has been an 80 years of journey for VTT to do all those kind of things. And why it has been so important, because we know that Finland is, as a small country, it needs to innovate and then think beyond the obvious to become a significant player in the Europe and around the world globe. And most people know that Finland is very well famous for equality and then also on the happiness index on the world level. So then at VTT, we also believe that to find solutions and for the global challenges and then also enable the breakthrough that can lead for tech and development for the tomorrow. Then at VTT, then it's acceleration of the growth. For example, we create innovative solutions, but then to accelerate those innovative solutions, then it's mainly through the startups and then also supporting the companies and help them to grow further. And on the other hand, then it's like developing services for large size and mid cap companies, and then also on the resilience side for both the Finnish society and the public sector. So also encompassing all those things in Finland as well. And some quick facts about VTT in year 2025. So 309 million euros the operating income for VTT. And then most of those income goes to then, of course, in the projects and investments and everything. So eventually, as I mentioned, it's a non-profit. And then employees, 2,350 employees for until year 2025, and then parent families 488. Then another important number is the 51% of the turnover were from abroad, which means that we value a lot our uh, commercialization and then also our joint efforts and then contribution and then collaborations, not just in Finland, but outside Finland as well. And based on that, we have over 1,000 customers, and then VTT also very active in the publishing scientific articles. So those numbers are also given here. Then on the VTT side, so as I mentioned, it's like 80 years of history. So we have a long history of supporting researcher in the commercialization and then also in the deep tech innovations. For example, since 2005, VTT has systematically developed its startup capability to contribute to realize the strategy and then innovative growth. And then until now, then there has been more than 60 VTT originating startups. So that reflects that how active we are in that sense. And then again, those numbers are more or less reflecting the same that I have mentioned in the previous slide. So for example, number more than 600 Finnish and then over 300 foreign companies we worked, and then very good feedback and reviews, 96%, and then also the most active public research organization and in patenting in the Nordics, and then overall 17th So in the ranking for all of the Horizon Europe beneficiaries, so which is very, very, very good progress for VTT. And then the largest beneficiary of EU Horizon Europe program and Europe Defense Fund in Finland. Sorry. So then you would be wondering that how we have our facilities distributed across Finland. So in that case, we have 22 R&D infrastructures and piloting facilities in 6 cities across Finland. So over the map here, and I'm located here in Espoo, so that's near close to the capital region. And you can see here the microelectronics, quantum energy, nuclear safety, bioprocesses, transport, environmental, plastic, and textile, all those research infra is located here. And then we move further to the north of Finland, then we have Tampere, the other city where over 200 facilities are, which mainly focuses on manufacturing industry, material technology, transport, and clean air. And then we are in central Finland, in Jyväskylä, where fiber products and biosynthetic materials are, and then in Kuopio, which has the one of the largest health and hospital facility in Finland, also has the health and well-being technology, and then Kajani, where mostly famous the supercomputers of Finland are located, and then it's also involved in measurement and sensing technologies, and the other big facility is in Oulu, which is almost like in the north of Finland, and where VTT has printed electronics, piloting, and then medical device and diagnostics, and then cybersecurity. So all those locations of VTT across Finland that we have. So that was briefly about VTT, and then we can go now to Sea4Volt project overview. So here I'm giving you a basic overview that how many partners or consortium is based off in Sea4Volt. So here VTT is located, and together with VTT in Finland, we have Aalto University, mostly on doing the materials research part. And then we have the companies, so Stargate Hydrogen in Estonia, and then we have Hydrolyte from Israel. Those are the two companies that are involved as the end user. And then we have the another research institute, so Fraunhofer from Germany, and then also SIDAUT from Spain. And then we have the university also together with Aalto is the Gdańsk from Poland. And then we have the communication, dissemination, and exploitation partner from Ireland, F6S. So some more facts about Sea4Volt. And important is it started on 1st of September last year, so we are pretty new compared to all other sister projects. So roughly we are in 6 to 7 months when this since the project started. So we are like getting into the speed for the work done and everything in that one. So the duration will be around 3 years, 36 months, and as I mentioned, that 8 partners, 7 countries, and then funding is around 4 million euros to complete the project. So the other part important is that what do we do in Sea4Volt? So the concept and the methodology behind. So as we can see that, as Fer mentioned, that it's co-funded by European Union and then Clean Hydrogen Partnership. So in Sea4Volt, we aim to develop novel low temperature AEM electrolyzer, which can able to operate efficiently and then selectively and durably with a direct seawater. So selectively, like selective materials, I will discuss later on in the next slide. And then efficiently means that we need to able to produce hydrogen and then durably because of the harsh seawater conditions that are the most challenging part in the seawater electrolysis. And so the main is that we will have direct feed from different seawater composition. As Fer mentioned, that it will be from the Atlantic Sea, and then we also focusing on the Baltic, and then also the Mediterranean Sea. So the seas that are covering around Europe. And it's a low temperature AEM electrolyzer concept. And then another important aspect is the green hydrogen, of course, coupled with the solar and the wind energy. and then the concept of the brine valorization. So all the byproducts, or then using the AEM electrolyzer into further chemical unit processes. So we can create instead of two independent processes, we can create a whole value chain around it. Uh, so the mission point of view, I can summarize quickly, is that important aspect is to understand the materials that it's going to use for cathode and anode, and also the membrane under seawater conditions. So the idea behind is that both needs to be done experimentally and then together with the machine learning tools, so we can act fast, efficiently, and then get the materials that are very stable under seawater conditions. Uh, then the other important aspects, we all know that that's the more growing concept, and then happening around that, the PFAS, and then it's going to soon be removed from most of those building blocks of the materials that we are using in everyday life and also in the electrolyzer. So we'll be moving towards the PFAS-free membranes and other materials. And then the other important aspects that has been long going on, that's to have either durable low PGM cathodes for seawater use, or PGM-free materials that could be used in that case. Then using those two approaches, then we will be moving toward the design and build of AEM single cell and then multi-cell stack for direct seawater electrolysis. So the challenges wouldn't be just like getting materials and then designing those materials. The challenge will also involve on the cell level, that how the flow field and all the internal design of the cell would look like in the seawater condition. Then we know that the Clean Hydrogen European Partnership, and then the framework of joint undertaking testing for different electrolyzer technologies. We know for PEM, we know for alkaline, and then we also know for solid oxide side, then also for AEM, but then also at the same time, specifically seawater fed electrolyzer also need a kind of a like a very coherent testing protocols, or a streamlined processes that they would be tested under the same condition, so we can utilize those bases for expanding, or like the not just expanding, but also on a larger scale, for example, to uh, extend the electrolyzer and then also the scale of the cell area and all together. So that will be very helpful document in that case. And then the final thing is the design for an integrated flow sheet, which we already discussed about the net zero liquid discharge, which is an approach to brine valorization. So not just only doing the direct seawater, because direct seawater compete with the desalination as well. So why not we can combine those processes and get the benefits from AEM at the same time, and then also the products from the desalination as well. So when it comes to approach, most of the things that you have already heard in the ASTERISK project as well. Another important aspect that we are going to execute in Sea4Volt is the catalyst and materials. So I am showing here some examples that what kind of materials that we are aiming to develop and achieve in Sea4Volt. So um, for example, here is the example of the palladium as the catalyst material that is covered with the titanium dioxide as the core. So it's a core shell structure. And the idea is not new, but then developing those kind of material is very tricky, especially the stable materials in that case in seawater conditions. So without the protective coating, we know that most of those materials leach out or then contaminate with the seawater impurities. So by creating through the protective shell, then we can make sure that those are very stable, and then the durability is enhanced for over the long-term operation of the seawater cells and stack. And similar, another example is also the palladium core that is covered with cerium oxide overlayer. So uh, the material might not be used, the similar one in Sea4Volt, but I'm giving you the example how a core shell material would look like. Of course, one could think of that those are also comes as a PGM or even critical raw materials in that case, but that's what we are already taking into account that, but we will employ the same methodology in Sea4Volt by creating those core and shell structure. Then the other important aspect that I mentioned about the seawater fed electrolyzer testing protocols. So we need to streamline those testing procedure and protocols because they are very important to validate those materials and to test them. And it would be even more beneficial that we can standardize those over the time. So I'm sure those kind of similar documents will be developed in other direct seawater projects that are also currently happening. So we can, in the end, after the project ends, so we can utilize it and industries can take look into it when we are going towards from the stack level production and then finally going toward the industrial solutions based on those cells and stacks. So that has already been developed in Sea4Volt, and we will utilize the similar document for our testing and testing campaigns and validation. Then, and another important aspect, the approach that we are going to do is the CFD methodology for cell and stack design. So not just only the materials are important, but then we have to be very careful about the flow field design in case of the seawater because of a lot of the impurities, and we are doing the direct seawater electrolysis, which means that we are not doing any chemical treatment or anything. So that is very important to take a look back on the design and tweak a bit the AEM already electrolyzer developed, but we really need to design those flow field and then bipolar plates and also the MEA design in that sense. And as we talked about the seawater brand valorization, so that concept will also be explored here. So we will create a flow sheet and we simulate it through the software, and then we will explore that how this concept works, and then finally getting the feasibility analysis for the brine valorization. So as I mentioned here, that the seawater, it can in the reverse osmosis, so it can go into the pure water, and then we have the nanofiltration technique, and then in the pure water it can be used as an anolyte, but then anolyte could be mixed with the sodium hydroxide coming from the bipolar membrane the electrodialysis, and then the catalyte would come from the uh, brine solution, and both could be used as the feeds to the AEM electrolyzer in that case. Yeah, so that's pretty much the approach that we are going to utilize in the Sea4Volt over the next 2.5 years. And then the impact, that how that impact will be during the phase of the project and then after. So we call it the ripple effect of Sea4Volt, which means that the way the wave propagates, that's how we are going to propagate across the timeline. So wave one, which is means the project timeline, which is 2025 to 2028, 3 years time. And that's what the main objectives of the Sea4Volt is, what we are going to develop in there: the protective coatings, the integrated seawater flow sheet, the cell stack design, and then very reduced or low PGM materials in that case. So after that phase, then we will enter into wave two, which means that 7 years from the wave one. So how we would see from the scientific aspect, which means that novel alkaline membranes will be developed and PGM-free commercial stacks will be that can operate on the seawater electrolysis, of course, on that sense. And then economic and technological point of view, we can see that how business uptake will be taking the results from Sea4Volt and other sister projects, and then the industrial leadership on the EU on the seawater electrolysis, and then aiming to have the AEM market improved, because that will be an extra path for AEM developed with the seawater fed electrolyzer concept. So the market will improve. We think that it will be over 4 billion euros in that sense. And then from the societal point of view, then we believe that the AEM manufacturer adaptation for those results, and then the global seawater utilization, so expanding beyond the Europe seawater, and then also the technology expansion also outside of EU in that sense. And then wave three, the beyond 2035 is the on the scientific is that scientific industry collaboration. So we will like exponentially then improve in that area, and then also uh, another thing that the possibility is that the increased offshore hydrogen production where there is a wind farm, and then if the direct seawater feed stack could be utilized there on the offshore wind farm, and then hydrogen could be transported back to the onshore, and or could be used there as any refueling station as well. So uh, uh, and then um aiming to on the technological level is the EU energy independency. Of course, the more broader technologies we could utilize, the more we get energy independence under this even current world scenarios. And from the societal point of view, then definitely that's going to increase the job across the hydrogen value chain. And then another important aspect is the reduced freshwater dependency. That's one big motivation for going for the research for the direct seawater electrolysis in that case. And yeah, that's pretty much the impact of that one. And then with that one, I would like to thank for your attention. That's what pretty much we have for Sea4Volt. So maybe after a year or something, then if we have this webinar series again, then there will be more kind of more results that can be presented to the public. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Farhan, for a very, very nice presentation. Um, I was in touch with VTT a long time ago, and it's nice to see how it's grown
Yeah,
in the past few years. I'm happy to see how it's like sort of spread in all the geography of Finland. At some point, you're gonna be like very, very close to Santa Claus if you keep going north.
yeah,
You're gonna be very, very close to the polar circle. But I really like your presentation, and I really liked also, I mean, especially the last slide before this one, where I think it was very optimistic in the
yeah,
sense that, beyond 2035 already, we see the EU as an independent, independent in terms of energy,
yeah.
which I think is dreaming high, but I think it's a very good scenario, and I wish we go there. So
I think the current world situation is gonna accelerate this even more, even though we have
yeah,
applied
yeah.
those ones a year ago. Yeah,
I know. It's
yeah,
probably gonna be even worse now that it's so
yeah,
hard to access, fossil
yeah.
fuels
So
and
it's
gas.
needed more. Yeah, it's needed more now than before.
In terms of the role that AM in general, but then see what the electrolysis is gonna play in this sort of energy independence. What do you think is the sort of key factor that's gonna be more important? Is it the avoiding relying on scarce materials and CRMs? Is it gonna be the durability of the device? Is it gonna be the compatibility with the renewables that we already have? Because I'm thinking, you could make it without CRMs, but then maybe rely on a very specific type of plastic that comes from a different country, so then are you really independent?
Yeah,
What do you think is going to be the key issue in making the AI and the future technology?
yeah. I mean, I fully agree what you mentioned. So that's very kind of like you know, um like in a fast changing process that I wish I could visualize those things in the future of happening. But then, of course, at the same time, we want to be CRM, not just PGM, CRM free energy dependency, or sorry, the material independency as well. But I think that will a bit take more time, because if I remember this PGM free or low PGM, I think it's already been over more than 10 years now that we are trying to develop in already PEM technologies that are already mature, and then also in the AEM as well. So I think this is, of course, gonna take time, but then at the same time, the speed might be a bit faster compared to if we think about the PGM free or low PGM materials we were trying to develop.
Hmm.
Then, due to, for example, especially the AI is really helping in that sense
Hmm.
to kind of like a um shortlist or save time and then improve the efforts faster in that category. So that's one aspect.
Hmm.
So I hope that we will have something by then that would be um, free of CRM or PGM. But I think there will always be difficult to achieve both things at the same time. There will
Hmm.
be a slight balance in between thinking about that how our the material security is in that case. And
Hmm.
then from the other perspective about the energy that the reliance on, definitely I think the based on the fossil fuel economies and what we are seeing, the situation is that it's not going to be a viable solution or smart thinking. So we definitely have to move away from fossil fuels even now faster and
Hmm.
move towards and hydrogen has proven one of the best alternative in that case. Of course, it has been competing with the hydrogen produced from natural gas, but then in that specific scenario, it might be even kind of now a strategic importance to be like a hydrogen production through renewable sources. And Europe
I
has
guess I
already,
guess it'll change.
yeah,
The whole scenario will change
yeah,
if,
yeah,
because I mean most of the scenarios focus on cost, and then
yeah,
obviously, natural gas-based hydrogen or gray
yeah,
hydrogen is all based on the assumption that
yeah,
natural gas is basically free. The moment it becomes more expensive to get,
yeah.
at some point, green hydrogen is going to become competitive, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. Now it's not just cost. Now it's a survivability. So the situation that is heading towards it's now becoming more a survivability rather than the cost only issue. Before it was we were comparing the cost of hydrogen from natural gas and from there, but now if we really want to be independent and avoid those bottlenecks from the fossil fuels supply
Hmm.
chain, then I think that's kind of like a goes in a survivability mode, which means
Hmm.
that industries or Europe will do a lot of more things to get it produce the
Hmm.
hydrogen from electrolysis.
Yeah, I mean, I was wondering also if an issue that definitely is part of Sea4Volt and Asterisk and the projects funded by the Clean Hydrogen Partnership is gonna play it's gonna get into play, which is the sort of circularity, because it's not only about avoiding the use of PGMs or CRMs, it's also about recycling them and repurposing properly. Because if you can
Yeah,
use palladium, it's
yeah,
fine to use like 2% palladium or whatever, but
yeah,
at the same time, you need to think, okay, what's the plan to recover that palladium
yeah,
and use it for future
yeah,
devices or future, like
yeah.
how are you working in C4Volt in terms of LCA and sustainability studies?
Yes, we have a dedicated work package actually. So we are like all those strategies and approach that I have mentioned in previous slides that are completely covered through the LCA. So we will go each and
Hmm.
every stage of those catalysts and materials development, membranes development, then cell and stack level. So we will do the LCA, and then, as you mentioned about the recycling of those palladium or then other catalyst materials, that is very well justified in those analysis.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think it's an important thing to
Yeah,
take into account. I mean, especially
yeah,
because we're integrating LC and sustainability in both projects, in a transversal way, but also with the idea of brand valorization. Like,
yeah.
have you found out anything interesting in terms of brand valorization so far, or maybe not something you can share at this moment?
Yeah, not at the moment because we will still dig deep into it. And as I mentioned, we have the concept there, so we will definitely run more into the details of that one. So
Hmm.
probably when we have some results for the public to share, then we will do that. And
Hmm.
but so far, I think it's the more or less the same concept as in ASTERIS. It's that
Hmm.
the to explore the brine valorization and then to see that, as I mentioned, not to create two independent processes, but see that how they can complement each other. So
Hmm.
we can be like fitting into already the chemical and unit processes of the desalination, brine valorization, or
Hmm.
I think we can find examples of the chloralkali industries. So that is a very good example for brine valorization. So something like that similar we can create.
Yeah, I mean, now that we're speaking about brine, I had a question that relates to the composition of seawater because at Asteris we work mainly with Mediterranean Sea seawater, but then also, I mean, I think we've tested some waters from Ireland since our
Yeah,
coordinator is in Galway. But I wanted to double check because in your case you do the Baltic Sea,
yeah.
Mediterranean Sea, but then also the Atlantic Ocean. Have you noticed any differences not only in terms of composition and how they undergo the filtration process, but then also in terms of the recovery of ions, how they work with the electrolyzers? Do they affect the electrolyzer in a different way? Because obviously the concentration of ions is completely different. I mean,
Yeah,
not completely,
yeah.
but it's slightly different. Have you noticed any problems or issues with the different types of water?
I think so far we have been at the initial stages, and then I think the biggest challenge is the calcium and magnesium ions. So they vary in the concentration, and then of course chlorine itself is a very another impurity that is very much affecting the seawater. So we are still in that stages of the work that evaluating based on those different seawater composition that how they are going to affect on a material and then cell level. So the approach is goes from starting from materials and then to cell and then to the stack level. So
Mhm.
definitely in the future we will have more concrete analysis to share.
No, I think definitely it's going to be
Yeah,
interesting to
yeah,
see. And then I don't know about the ways forward for this, but I'm sure that
yeah,
through organizing symposia and organizing workshops together,
definitely.
eventually we could even have like some sort of MBAs between the consortia
Yeah,
and share some of the results because I think it could be complementary because
yeah,
despite the similarities, we do have some differences as well, like the filtration of the water, the type
exactly.
of catalyst that we're going to use, the type of
Yeah,
stacks that we're going to use. So it could be interesting to compare
yeah,
how does Baltic seawater operate with anime, so
definitely,
with Asterix, sorry,
definitely.
and then how they operate with Sea4Volt.
Yeah,
So it could be
yeah,
interesting to see
yeah,
how to cross the two projects and how to
yeah.
overlap them.
I think we have also planned, but of course, it's nice to know that you also have these kind of plans in mind. So we can definitely come up at some point in a time where we have some results and then you have some results, then we can share it. Depends on internally and then also some public results as availability. So
Yeah, I think it's a good thing
the
that
outcomes, yeah,
the
exactly,
several projects working together because then
yeah,
again, the fact that we can share the result is super interesting. And then in our experience with past projects, I was just referring to Animal because Animal and Asterisk sort of mix
yeah,
up in my head because it's the predecessor of Asterisk. But
yeah,
in that one, we collaborate with a bunch of other projects in our portfolio. And the
yeah,
experience has been very positive in the sense that we organize joint workshops, we even
yeah,
publish papers together.
yeah,
So I think it could be a very nice idea to explore the
exactly,
possibilities of,
exactly,
I don't know, maybe submitting an article together about
definitely,
the state of the art of seawater electrolysis.
yeah,
It's been really nice talking to you and learning more about Sea4Volt.
yeah,
I'm just gonna double check if we've got any more questions from the
sure,
audience, which I don't think we do at the moment. So um, I think um, I think if you're okay with it, we can just close the webinar for
sure.
today. It's been
Thank
really
you.
cool to hear from you, from VTT and from Sea4Volt. I think
Thank
you're
you.
doing
Yeah,
fabulous work. Really looking forward to
yeah,
seeing more of the results soon
yeah,
enough, hopefully in a shared workshop with Asterisk.
yeah,
And yeah, for everybody else who's watching, because this will remain on the internet forever. If so, if for anybody watching YouTube after the live emission goes and gets stored in the channel, this is C4Volt and Asterisk. They're both funded by the Clean Hydrogen Partnership and the European Union, and both of us we have very active web pages, social media, newsletters. So make sure you follow both. And it's easy to find the projects. It's normally the name of the project.eu. So you can find us online. You can contact us. And if you're interested in seawater electrolysis, please keep an eye on this because again, this is only halfway through both of the projects. But The more we advance, the more public events and conferences and things we're gonna do. So please do stay in touch. Connect with us on social media, on the webpage, the newsletters. It's been great to collaborate with you, Farhan, and to hear from C4Volt. I really look forward to more collaborations. Thanks for joining us. Yeah, and if anybody else wants to follow the webinars, subscribe to our newsletter. We're gonna have two more coming up in May and June with the other, or both in May. Don't trust me, just trust our website. We're gonna have more webinars coming up with the other two projects in the same call. The two remaining projects have a very different approach to seawater electrolysis, so maybe stay tuned for that. Make sure you follow our newsletter, and yeah, we are at asteriskproject.eu. Thank you for watching today, whenever you're watching, and yeah, see you soon.